It's that time of year again. It's time to go take a look at another car show. This is the first one of 2019, and they do a couple of these a year, and this is the big one. I am also armed with a lot more information and knowledge about the Chinese industry. I feel a lot more confident walking through here. One of the biggest things that you have to understand about the Chinese auto industry is the fact that they don't import very many cars. Yeah, you see Toyotas and Hondas and BMWs and a lot of GM cars, but most of them are not imported. Most of them are built here. If you want to sell a car in China, you have to partner with one of the local manufacturers and manufacture it here. Something like 98% of all the cars that are sold in China are built in China, and you'll see it. They do import some cars. For example, American cars, they import the Ford Mustang, and they also import the F-150 Raptor, which I've seen a couple of them here, but those are very expensive vehicles to buy in China. Even something like the Jeep Wrangler is like 50,000 US dollars here in China. But they are planning on building the Jeep Wrangler in Shanghai, which will greatly lower the cost. And for all of the cars that GM builds worldwide, about 1/3 of them are sold here in China. And the biggest brand for that is Buick. You know, in America, Buick is like an old person's vehicle. I mean, they barely sell any of them. But here in China, they sell a lot. Something like 6-7 times that of what they sell in America. And the average buyer, the average age of a buyer of a Buick in China is around 30-35, whereas it's double that in America. You know, here at the Expo Center in Zhongshan, the parking lot's filled with like smaller brands and smaller car companies, and there's some kind of cosplay thing going on here as well, because you see a lot of people dressed up in cosplay outfits. The thing that stands out to me very first is when you walk in, there's a million salespeople that are just waiting to talk to you. EV cars are even bigger this year than they were last year. There's EV cars everywhere. So the Ford Transit van, the passenger van here, has a stick shift sticking out of the dash. I don't even think they offer that in the States. This is the new Ford Territory. And I don't know if they offer this in the States, but it's a very good looking crossover. I really dig the interior. It's very modern. So I love these switches here. A lot of false switches here for some reason. Yeah, as soon as I walk in here, everyone is like, this guy. they just pounce on you and want to answer all your questions. Over here, this is BYD, Build Your Dream Car. They're big in the EV market. I did a little video about this BYD, but I love the floating tablet in the middle, and you can change the direction of the floating tablet. It can go vertical or horizontal. So it looks like you can watch video on it both vertical or horizontal while you're driving down the road. I have a colleague who has one of these, gas powered with a stick shift, and it's a dangerous car. It's an older one, but these are. Yeah, so these are pretty cheap. 多少钱？多少钱？ 7万。Okay, 可以。So it's about 10,000, a little over 10,000, 11,000 US dollars for this little 4-door. But I don't recommend it because it's really cheap and dangerous. I've been in them before. Now, I have been saying for many years that the RV market here in China is going to explode. They have highways throughout the country, and as more and more people retire and more people retire with money, these RVs are going to be very popular. So if you have money, you should invest in these RV companies. Everywhere I go, people are, I'm the only foreigner here, so everyone's staring at me. And as you can see, this little RV is gaining a lot of attention here. All right, I'm climbing up into this thing. Let's take a look. Hello.
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 Thank you.
Hello.
That's a small little bed for a child.
And this is a bed.
That turns into a bed too.
Bed too.
Okay.
And this is a bed. 3 beds in the house.
3 beds.
Yeah.
Total 6? 6 people?
6 people.
6 people?
Yes.
Okay. Very efficient. I like it. And this is the.
It's a bathroom.
And I love that they have.
And this is.
Does come with it? You even have a washing machine. So the RV is pretty impressive, but next to it they have these vans that are very decked out, all luxurious-like for executives. Now the minivan market here is more like a limousine market. They pick up VIPs from the airport, and even the college, when they drive me around in a Buick minivan, and it's really nice. It's in America you call it a van conversion, and they're pretty slick.
走吧，再去看一下。如果你们要订车的话，可以随时联系我，打个卡片吧，一张可以啊。
Chery, which is a very, fun to drive little cars. This looks like Dongfeng. I've done videos on most of these cars already. I'll put the links for the other walkabouts of the auto shows that I've done below. I'm mainly here to find the newest models for 2019. If they're a carryover from last year, I probably won't do it. This is the Geely GS, which is the one I really like. It's just a tiny little crossover, but you can get into them for about 40,000-50,000 secondhand with very low mileage on it. Geely is the best-selling Chinese brand. They're huge. They even own Volvo. If there's going to be a car company that comes to the States first from China, it's going to be Geely. Of course, the best-selling car in China is actually Volkswagen, but it's not the Volkswagens from Germany. They're the Volkswagens that are built here in China. Volkswagen's got a long history here in China. The Volkswagen, I think it's called the Santana, was long the taxi cab of choice throughout the country. And nowadays you see a lot more EV cars, BYDs. And here in Zhongshan, we're starting to get the EV, but really most of the taxi cabs are Hyundais. Here's a brand that I've never seen before. Every time I come here, there's a new brand. And it says since 1895, so it's an older brand. And it says it's called Skoda. I don't know anything about Skoda. I'm gonna have to go home and look it up. Oh, oh. Caught ya. And now we come back to the Star Trek car. I talked about this car in the last video, and it's very cheap, but it also is a cheap car. I mean, it's not built very well. It's pretty sad. Going back to the minivans are like executive vehicles here. There's an awful lot of new minivans on display here. My favorite Chinese SUV is called it's either Haval or Haval. I'm not sure. Nobody knows how to say it. But they're built by Great Wall Motors, and they're probably the best designed and best quality SUVs you can find in China. Of course, this is the BAIC BJ40 Plus. A lot of people say it's the Jeep Wrangler knockoff. It really is its own thing, and it's gaining a pretty good reputation throughout China. They sell quite a bit of them, although the Jeep is still the one to have, I think. Yeah, this one is much bigger than it has been in the past ones. Oh, they've got tents out here. They're trying to push for more camping in China. This little blue tent right here, it sells for about 15 US dollars. Okay, to get inside, you scan the little QR code. One of my students was actually working the door, so she actually helped me in. It's no money, it's free. You just put in your phone number and a password. So the first ones here, we have Changan, which is one of the largest Chinese manufacturers, and they actually do a lot of partnerships with other brands throughout the world. Changan is really pushing the EV market a lot. You see a lot of EVs from Changan. And then you have Honda, which again are built here in China. And you can see it on the back of all the brands. You'll see some Chinese lettering, and that will tell you where the car is manufactured. I'm in the Honda Odyssey in the back seat, and I gotta say, these seats are pretty awesome. Okay, let's venture in and see what else we can find. It's loud in here, so I switched to my iPhone so that I have the mic. So I'm sorry if the video quality is not as good on the selfie mode. It's just too loud in here to use the other camera. Every car display has these giant speakers with competing music, so it is just very loud in here. It's ridiculous. This is the MG. I like the MG. Of course, MG being a former British company was bought by a Chinese company. Now they're made pretty much exclusively in China. BMWs are still considered anything from Germany. The Chinese really love. They think the Germans make the best cars, but again, they're not built in Germany. They're built here in China, almost all of them. And they're nice. I have friends who have BMWs, and they spend a lot of money for these. As far as the used car market, the Chinese cars are considerably cheaper than any other type of car. There's various reasons for that. But American cars, Toyota, Honda, Japanese cars, these are much more expensive on the second-hand market, although to fix them is much cheaper than it is back in the States. Labor costs, even parts, are much cheaper because it's all sourced here in China. Now, this is something I haven't seen yet. This is badass. This is a decked out kind of off-roading SUV I have never seen before. This is pretty cool. Oh. Well, sitting in here, I feel like it's just like any other SUV, really. It's leather and, you know, decent materials, kind of a light plastic. It's a big, big car, so you're not going to have very heavy plastics just for fuel economy. But on the outside, this thing looks like a tank. You got to keep the kids happy. This right here, this is a car you got to look out for. This is the Trumpchi GX4. They're everywhere. This is one of the best-selling cars in the country. And in a country that has the largest automotive market in the world, that says a lot. They churn these out like it's no tomorrow. And they say that this is one of the vehicles that might be introduced to the American market first. And it's a small little crossover. It's handsome. It's well-built. It's versatile, and it's extremely cheap. If you're going to put this up to a RAV4 from Toyota or a CR-V, quality-wise, the Japanese will probably be better, but for the price, you can't beat this. And they even have an electric version of it. All right, now I've made it to Buick, which you will see has a huge presence here in China. If you go to an American auto show, Buick is this like little corner, maybe 3 vehicles. Here, it's got half the pavilion. They sell a ton of Buicks here, and the people looking at them are young professionals. They have small cars, and I've been in them, and they're pretty tight little cars. As far as the GM quality is concerned, I think Buick in China is rated higher than that of even Cadillac. All the GM vehicles, especially Buick, they're all built with cooperation from SAIC. I think it's Shanghai Automotive Industrial Corporation, which is one of the largest in the country and a very, very good partner. In fact, on many of the older Buicks you see in town driving around, you'll actually see in Romanized letters, it'll say Shanghai GM on the back. And when they market these, if you go to a movie theater, they'll have a commercial, and the marketing is geared more towards the younger generation, and that's what you see driving it. And some of these, you know, are really, really beautiful cars, and they just don't get the attention that they deserve back in the States. And this has like a race car styling and nice stitching. I mean, yes, this is a Buick. It's really nice. And just like all the brands, they're pushing the EV. This is the new V-Lite 6. I just don't dig the color too much. Now remember when I said minivans are like the executive car here? The king of the executive minivan in China is the Buick minivan. Now if you go to Macau or Hong Kong, they're mostly these Toyota vans that you see driving everybody around, especially rich families. The Buick van is by far #1. It's the limousine of China. I mean, all the major hotels have them too. And I've been driven around all over China in these things, and they're very, very nice. Now everyone knows Jeep's history as an American brand, and of course it's not American anymore, it's owned by Fiat. And the Italians have done some interesting things. They've introduced the Compass and the Renegade, and I've driven the Renegade and the Compass. I like them both for various reasons. But the king of all Jeeps is still the Wrangler. But they don't build the Wrangler in China yet. They're still working on the plant in Shanghai. But they do build these other Jeeps in China, and you see a lot of Cherokees and a lot of Compasses on the road. Now, unlike Lexus, which is of course the Toyota's higher end brand, I don't see too many Acuras in China. I see a lot of Hondas, a lot of Accords, a lot of Civics. They have one called the City, and SUVs are very popular, but I rarely see an Acura on the road here. They're just not very popular. Lincoln is a popular brand. I just don't see them here because they're so expensive. But a lot of like rich people, they have the new Nautilus crossover here. They've got a Navigator here, which impresses me. I mean, this thing is supposed to be rated as one of the top SUVs in the world. This thing is freaking huge. In my years in China, I've only seen maybe one on the road here. This next Chinese brand is Link & Company, Link & Co. And they're marketed for a younger crowd, and they're cool. I see a lot of them being tricked out. They're lowered with rims and all kinds of fancy lighting and sound equipment. And so you can customize these pretty nicely, and they are pretty hot little cars. This is the first time I've sat in one of these, and man, the seats are heavily bolstered like a sports car, but super cushy, super comfortable. And you know, I dig the interior. It's a little cheap plasticky, not the highest quality, I would say. It's a new company, but very driver oriented. Of course, you got the Russian models displaying the Mercedes-Benz. course, the Porsches are very popular with the rich. I actually have a student who sells the Porsches here in Zhongshan, and she does very, very well. Range Rovers are also popular with the rich. If you can afford the maintenance and to buy one, pretty cool to drive one around. That was Jaguar. This is my first time sitting in a Jaguar SUV. It smells nice. That's a nice looking car, I guess. Those are some big ass wheels for a Land Rover Discovery.
The finished car is a masterpiece of design.
Aside from Buick, Chevrolet is the other big GM brand, and they do sell a lot of Chevys. They're pretty popular, brand. They've got a reputation of good quality.
接下来就是我们今天最后一个问题了，请大家抓紧机会，请看大屏幕。
This is a Chinese brand that I've seen once before, and I still don't know the name of it. It is a very luxurious looking vehicle, very, very big, and I'd never see them on the road. I don't think I've ever seen once. Chery New Energy has these tiny little smart car looking things. They look just like a smart car. So here in the parking lot, they've got lines of cars of different types of models and brands that they don't actually have room for inside the expo center. This one you've got some, you can get a brochure on it or something. And of course, where there's a lot of people, you have all the street food vendors that come out.